All right, what's up, everybody? I have tried a bunch of times to record today. Just the past few minutes, I'm having a hard time, just to be honest, about getting my thoughts together. But I want to do this podcast, I guess, for my own benefit, frankly, get some things off my chest, and it'll be my way of just being at peace with Jacoby passing. Because frankly, I hate making something about myself on social media or, just putting something out there because I don't know. It always feels lame. And now that I have my own business and my business is talking about sports betting, I guess I'm going to use this podcast for me to be at peace because once I get things off my chest, I feel much better. I'm not one of those people that's always positive just to be positive. It takes a lot of work, frankly, for me to be positive. It's been easier since Paige has been in my life, I guess is the truth. But I know what it's like to be frustrated, and my life was frankly not going in any sort of positive direction until Jacoby made that catch. I never met Jacoby at all, but he was so important to me, um, and it all revolves around sports betting. So I guess it's the reason why I have this podcast. So let me just get it off my chest, and if you don't feel like listening, there's no offense, but here we go. So I guess but the best way to say is I started betting maybe like most people, or I don't know. Everybody's different. So I started betting before I was allowed to bet, 14, 15, just started gambling and never won. Always lost. If I won, gave it back, that kind of stuff. And it's just things got bad for me because I have an addictive personality and I love gamblings and yes, I did everything the wrong way. Every bet the wrong way. And it got to a point where I was living in California. So it's a 4 hour drive to Vegas. And I would drive to Vegas and bet $5,000 on games that I didn't do the research on. Maybe I had a gut feeling, or maybe I did do a ton of research and stayed up for 3 days straight to study everything. Or I just impulsive, very, very impulsive. Almost, if you would just follow me around, it would be everything to do wrong betting because you can't win when you're emotional and impulsive, and then you feel like you're getting unlucky, but it's really because you don't have boundaries. So when I give advice or I talk and I'm like, why would anybody listen to me? It's all because I got really, really lucky because everything was going the wrong direction. And like, so everyone knows where they were when the Mile High miracle happened. For me, where I was in the casino hotel by myself, losing all feeling in my lower left calf. And how I got there. All right, so here we go. I was trying to remember because like 12 years ago, which is is the number you were. So it's like just crazy. I was trying to remember all the details. And what happened was the week before. So let me start with that. The week before was the Texans and the Bengals. And I bet, God, the fucking Bengals never score in the playoffs. Andy Dalton's the worst. I hate Andy Dalton more than anything. I drove for 4 hours. It was a 4 o'clock game on the East Coast, so 1 o'clock on the West Coast. Didn't get a hotel room. Figured, get the hotel room after the Texans, or excuse me, after the Bengals beat the Texans. That didn't happen. $7,700 the wrong way. Was planning on betting on the Ravens to beat the Colts the following morning. And then whatever the late game was a winner for me too, but I had no money left. So I drove back home with no money, down 7,700. Not happy, not in a great space, not having money coming in at the moment either. More like so anyway, now the Ravens beat the Colts. It was weird. I'm not saying I rooted against the Ravens that day, but I rooted against them covering. It was the weirdest feeling I've ever had because I was sick to my stomach watching the game at home, not betting on it, and home's California. Anyway, they win by whatever the score. I think they won by 11. They covered. So I was just like, yeah, happy they win, but I make no money off of it. So that's a bitter feeling. Now it leads into the Broncos game and they're getting 10 points. The Ravens are getting 10 points and trying to remember exactly why I bet the amount that I bet. And I'll get to that in a second, but I remember walking around that week at my lowest point thinking, what should I like? Am I gonna should I go back home? Like, I don't know exactly what to do because I moved out to California to kind of get away from giving out sports betting advice. I didn't want to do it anymore, and I couldn't make anything work. I invested in something that didn't work. It was just things weren't going well, and I guess the 14. So I live. My address growing up was the number 14's in there. Trying to remember exactly how I came to that number. I just remember. hmm, Sorry, excuse me. I just remember thinking, I got to get it all back. I got to get everything back that I've lost. How am I supposed to get everything back unless I just bet the money line and I have to hit it? And what's the most I can afford to bet? And by the time I calculated everything, I basically had, maybe $20,000 to my name, which I guess is rock bottom. That at that point was not nearly rock bottom. I can afford rent. I still have a 6 months, 6 months, something like that left on rent, and bills are probably 2,500. It's expensive, but whatever. I'm comfortable at the 20 grand mark. If I did, I can figure life out. But I wanted everything back. So when I say I know this is the lucky part, right? Because everybody knows the ending to the story, but I decided to bet the money line instead, and I come up with I'm going to use 14,000. Maybe I figured I could pay a couple months rent, or that was the penalty. I'm trying to remember if it broke my lease, or honestly can't remember. I just know that it was one of those situations where I felt like I had to get everything back. That was the mentality. So I go to and this time I did it the right way. I wanted to have confidence. So I'm like, I'm getting the hotel room first. Like, and mainly because if I lose, I need a safe place to be. I can't drive, is what I was thinking deep down. But I kept erasing those thoughts. I kept talking myself into Ray Lewis, Ray Lewis, Ray Lewis, things that don't make sense. Like, you can't bet that way, right? Like, glad it worked. Like, really, really glad it worked. But you can't bet that way. But that's what I just did. I kept talking myself into. I would mix my spiritual, my beliefs in God, and look for signs and do things you really can't do. It's just you can't, because you're gonna lose. Because I've done all those things and I've lost. That's just anyway. The best part about the story, besides the ending, is I had the balls when I got up there and I said, all right, I'm betting 14,000 Ravens money line. And the guy looked up, and you got to remember, it's divisional Saturday. It's very busy. They get big bets all the time. So it's not like 14,000 cash is the craziest thing you've ever seen in your life, right? So, but the guy, he looked right at me as soon as I said it. Like, I handed to him. We're not making eye contact. He probably, I'm dressed like a schmuck. He probably just thinks I'm betting $50 parlay. And I say it. So he immediately looks up. And you're not really supposed to say this like behind the counter when somebody makes a big bet. Really, it's like anybody that gambles knows this. You do not jinx anything. Keep your mouth shut. And he looks at me. He's like, you sure you don't want the 10 points? And my life kind of like just paused, because I'm like, I should take the 10 points. Not only should I not be betting 14,000. So there's two parts of the story, or there's two lessons, which is it probably shouldn't be betting 14,000 to begin with. Not probably. I shouldn't be. Um, right. Just if I'm being responsible, but it's also not quite rock bottom. So I don't feel like I have lost my entire self. Like, there's levels to rock bottom and bad stories. So depending on who's listening and depending on their stories, mine will rank worse or better, right? And it's not about who's got worse stories. It's just that's my story. So I didn't risk not paying rent, right? I left myself 6,000 somehow, some way. That was something. I also have a safety net of, a couple of friends, and if I needed family support, I probably have it in an emergency situation. So there's also levels. I don't want to be extra dramatic and pretend like, oh my God, you bet everything that you could possibly have, or you'd be on the streets. So there's perspective, and I think I have it, frankly. And if they lost, I probably wouldn't have the perspective. Who knows what would have happened? But yeah, when the guy said that to me, he's like, you sure you don't want the 10 points? I'm thinking, you motherfucker, you don't say that out loud. Like, But of course I don't. Like you would have thought I was playing in the game. I was so defiant. No, I don't want the 10 points. Not only don't I want fuck the 10 points. I want all of it. So it was yeah, paid out. It was like plus 340. So it was, and then at that point I knew I was gonna win. And my gut, like all of a sudden I had a better feeling because 33 was my lucky number. And I was like, well, that's my profit. Like they're gonna give me back 47, right? So you minus that from the 14, then you get, it's gonna pay out 33, 3.4 to 1 is what it's. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's gonna I subtract. I did it the wrong way. I'm gonna make the 47. I subtracted the 47 from the 14 to get the 33 and say that would be the lucky number. But I like somehow did the math wrong. And anyway, it pays out the 47, and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I want. And when we go up, so anyway, I'm feeling as confident as I possibly can, and I'm like, I did it right. I did the hardest part. Like I did, and the reason I'm talking like this is because I have both perspectives. The addict perspective of how I felt in the actual moment still comes out at me now. Like somehow I talked myself into like I have control over what's about to happen, and there's signs that pertain to me, which is a complete it's what you do when you're an addict. It's what you do when you've lost control is you try to justify it. So I remember feeling that way, like, I'm this is it. I feel good. Like we all know that feeling, like, all right, this is the bet that's gonna work. And anyway, so I go up, and if you guys remember how the game played out, it's 7-0 Broncos like right away. And they return the punt, they return a kick. It's it's one of the most wild games. Besides that play, it's one of the most wild games. So um I wanted to do it in two parts, right? Because I don't need to keep talking about how the game ended and brag about the win, and that's just not the point of it. The point is after that game one, I didn't learn my lesson at all. I still had the same type of issues, but now I had a bigger safety net. But I did the same. I bet 20 grand on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl, which paid out to 33. That's I sorry about earlier. I did my math wrong. I was mixing that up. That's what paid out to 33, and that's what gave me the confidence. The first one paid out to 47. I was like stumbling, trying to figure out why I was having a hard time doing math in my head. But it was the Super Bowl was the second thing I did. So I'm still having this, but at that point now I got a bigger safety net. So the 20 with the safety net, whatever the net that I have at that point is way different than before. But still going through that, it's like, is that really the right thing to do when I don't have the money coming in? Probably not. And then Jacoby, and that's a crazy game, but I don't know if he wins that Super Bowl. That's probably a stretch, but God, he played a big part. That's for sure. Everything he did was like special. Like he has these special moments. It's like I associate the best moments of my life with him. Like it's weird actually. Because like I don't know him, so it's like really, really weird. Like I never wrote him, or like I don't have any stories where it's like, oh yeah, I met him one day and I told him about this stuff. It was just like that. Just I don't. It just feels weird to do that. I don't know. I never felt compelled to do that. Life's short. I guess that's the second part of the story, right? Like life is short. Kind of wish I did. So this is yeah, this is the best I can do, I guess. Because God, if they don't win that Super Bowl, I probably just do the same stuff and I'll lose because you always lose when you bet with no boundaries, right? If you bet with no boundaries, you will lose. That's the whole point of me giving out advice is not um, because I know I hate sounding like I'm preaching like that. I'll preach about other topics. We'll get to that maybe when I relaunch the company. We'll see, which is happening in 2 weeks exactly. As soon as I get home from Georgia, by the way, everything's getting relaunched. So everything's ready to go. Appreciate everybody's patience. Very excited about everything. But yeah, I know I need to talk more about myself and give a reason when new people sign up and all that. And it basically is because I know all the wrong things to do and I got lucky. And it feels really strange to say that out loud, but it's the truth. If Jacoby doesn't make that catch, I don't know exactly what happens, and I don't really like thinking about it, but it gave me a safety net. And then I got lucky again. And then I got lucky the third time because I made a ridiculous bet with the Seahawks Super Bowl that I'll talk about another time because tonight is just for me to get this off my chest. So if anybody listened, I appreciate it. And yeah, I think I just appreciate him. I'll probably end up crying. Well, not probably, I will. So I'm going to cut myself off because I don't want to do that. But yeah, I don't know how else to thank him. That's just weird. It's weird. But when someone passes, you have to celebrate. I guess that's the main thing that gives me peace about death is certain cultures, certain people believe in certain things. The best people I think that handle death are the ones that turn into a celebration as hard as it is with certain people. If you don't, it is miserable. So, yeah, thank God for him. That's for sure. Thank God for him. And yeah, as far as the Orioles, I have plenty of stuff to talk about. We'll do that starting tomorrow. Plenty of stuff to go over, plenty of things. I know it's not a good betting week at all. So I want to get into why that happened, besides the obvious that I lost the bets. But yeah, you can't bet on your home team, um, frankly, and be emotional. I think that goes into it, but I'll get into more of that tomorrow. But yeah, in full transparency, that's why these bets are $5, $10, maybe 15 if I'm like having a good week. But I max myself out at that because that's just how I'm betting. Like I have reasons for that. Like it's not so, and that's the main reason is because Jacoby saved it and allowed me to learn some different lessons. Still made mistakes along the way, but now I had a safety net. So thank God for that. Anyway, appreciate everybody listening. I shall be here tomorrow. Hopefully Gunner wins the home run derby. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.